Alex, welcome to Automate All the Things. We're so excited to have you today.
Hey, hi everyone.
I feel like a lot of the folks in the chat are familiar either with your work, with your face. They're definitely familiar with FinSuite where you work. But with all of those, maybe for those who aren't familiar, how about we just start with a little bit about you and yeah, what brings you here today?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Alex Iglesias. I'm the CTO of FinSuite. If you recognize me, you've probably seen me in content from FinSuite. I've been leading a lot of the cool projects that you might have probably seen from FinSuite, like the FinSuite extension, attributes, cookie consent, etc. Um, and I'm leading all these initiatives in FinSuite. So if you've seen any content, I'm probably being related to it. Um, so happy to meet you, everyone. Happy to see. Happy to be here.
Yeah. You're I think you're selling yourself short. We've got folks telling a JavaScript guru. I think you're the developer behind a lot of FinSuite tools. You're the probably the person explaining them in the videos. You're probably editing them to creating the assets. A real Swiss Army knife. But today, I'm particularly excited because we've had a few sessions around like pulling Webflow data, and then a lot of people are interested. Some people even had use cases. Folks are saying a legend. I think that's probably the best way of describing
That's
who
too
you
much.
are. And so, and we talk a lot about APIs here on the stream. And what I'm excited about here is kind of, I'm hoping two things that we kind of talk about today. One is APIs in general, and then second, the different ways where you can pull information into Webflow to make it quote unquote live. So maybe that's I know we were chatting this before we started, but maybe that's a good place to start. Like, Alex, can you explain to everyone what is an API?
Yeah, let's start with that. Because actually, the funny thing is that this stream was initially planned to be an attributes API video, right? And there was a misconception behind what was possible with attributes API from Aron, but that's fine. And it was because API it's so broad that it can create this kind of confusions. But yeah, defining an API, it's just if we take the literal name, it's application programming interface, which basically it's to, to say non-technical, it's a way to interact with an application. So there's something that's running as an application, either it's software program in your PC, could be a browser, could be something specific inside the browser, it could be some piece of code
Mm-hmm.
that it's closed, it's a closed environment, and it just provides a set of features. Anything that it's in that can be interact with the API, it's the bridge
Mm-hmm.
between both. Usually that's confused when because the most that you hear API it's when you're talking about server stuff. Like, hey, I'm calling this API to fetch this data. The API to fetch the data, it's just a bridge between the browser and the server to retrieve that data. You have that API that exposes an endpoint, and that endpoint it's the one that it's returning after you requested it. But it could be anything, especially about attributes. I think that we created even more confusion because the first video that we released about the attributes API was about fetching an API to retrieve data.
Right.
So it had actually two different APIs on the video: the API from attributes and the API from retrieving the data from the server.
Right.
So yeah, I can see that this confusion it's very general, but still, yeah, it's just a way of interacting with something.
Hmm.
And we decided to go a little bit more global for this video just for the sake of that.
Yeah. So for folks, so what's interesting today is that we're not going to use the FinSuite attributes API, but we are going to use two different APIs. We're going to use one API to fetch external data, right? A live subscriber count on our Webflow page. And then second, we're going to use an API within Webflow called the DOM to manipulate information in the HTML page. And I think the first one is what we usually consider API, right? When we talk about APIs, well, when I talk about APIs, that's kind of what I think about. And then the second is more of that kind of like browser based interacting with the browser. So um, and if folks are really interested, I would love to do a second stream where we split that with the attributes API, right? So in what cases do you
Yeah,
use the attributes API? What do you use external API? When do you write custom code? So Joe says that it's his fault for the confusion. 100%, I
no, it
agree.
was not.
It's all Joe's fault. Uh, and Mika brings a good point of like, when do you go to the CMS to fetch live information? When do you go directly to the third party without pulling it into the Webflow CMS? So we're all going to talk about that in the context of uh, selfishly something that I've been wanting to do, and then Alex agreed to come build it live on the stream. So Alex, how about we
Yeah.
jump in? We talk about what we want to do, and then the steps we're going to take to it, and that'll be kind of the
Yes.
outline for today's stream. How does that feel?
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, so let's jump in here. I'm going to go to my Webflow website, and our goal for today. So this is my newsletter. I send this out, every Wednesday morning, and I have a link to my Webflow, CMS. So I have a CMS collection with newsletters, and these are all the newsletters that I've sent out. And on the page, let me go back to my collection page right here. I have this subscriber count. Now that subscriber count is fake. This is not the number of subscribers. This is once every Sunday morning. I come here and I'm like, oh, what is my latest number of subscribers? And then I update it, which having a channel called Automate All the Things and doing that manually is a little bit of heresy. So our goal is to make this a live number. Now, how about if I was to kind of talk to you about this, how would you think about this, Alex, of what are the steps we need to take to make this a live number?
Because there is the simpler way, which is the one that we're going to do today,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a more advanced way, which probably would be the best way moving forward. And if we don't have time to do it during the stream, I will just help you
Absolutely.
afterwards
Give
to
us the
finish it.
simple way
But
today, and then
yeah,
talk us through the more complex one.
so simple way, you're using ConvertKit
Yeah.
to manage all these subscribers, and ConvertKit has an API,
Right.
a server API that provides a few endpoints to retrieve specific data.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only to retrieve, you can also update data and do different CRUD actions. But for this specific case, we want to get the data,
Mm-hmm.
and the data that we want to get is the data about the subscribers. So the first step that we will do is call this API. Well, actually prepare a middleware for that
Mm-hmm.
and call the API. We need a middleware because the API from ConvertKit it's private.
Right.
And it requires a secret key.
Yeah.
If you went ahead and took that secret key and put it in the browser, everyone could see it.
Right.
So I could just come in, being a naughty boy, and I could just pick that API key and just destroy your database if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Or I could just blackmail you to not
So
to do it.
just said otherwise, if I understand correctly, if I want to get my subscribers, this is the URL that I have to pull from, and in that URL
correct
is my secret. So anyone who like goes to my website, right clicks, and would go console, they'd see my API, and that means that not only can they get the subscriber count, they'd also get everyone's emails, right? What it also could mean,
they
could delete.
They
can do whatever they
stuff.
want.
Yep.
Yeah, so we want to avoid that.
We don't want that. Not all APIs are like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are some APIs that are explicitly prepared for being public.
Right.
Usually, there are some other methods for avoiding that people have used them, like restricting the domain
Right.
that can access that API, for example, or setting a rate limit,
Right.
so you cannot call super frequently that API. But for this case, we have this one that it's private. So what we're going to do is create a middleman, and that will be our own API,
Mm-hmm.
which will take care of calling the ConvertKit API and
Right.
returning the data. Actually, the filter without data,
Yeah.
because the data returns the subscribers.
Right.
I mean, all the emails.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We just want to return the number.
Right. This right here, total subscribers.
Yeah, correct. So we just want to do that. And in that case, we will filter out the data before sending it to the browser.
Got it. And
after that,
go ahead.
I was moving on to the...
Yeah, go for it. No, I was going to go, what's next? What's the next steps? Once we have it in the browser, how do we actually have it display instead of this?
Correct. So once we have it in the browser, we actually use another API, which is the DOM API. The browser API is, I think that officially they're called JavaScript APIs, browser APIs. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know the word, but if you've written any line of code with JavaScript, you'll probably deal with them for querying an element, for updating an
Mm-hmm.
element, for mutating whatever it's going on with that. Everything that it's being interact between some JavaScript code and what's happening in the browser, it's being done through an API.
Right.
So that's another API that we will do. And we could even complicate more things. Well, not complicate, but
Yeah.
make it more complete by using Webflow's API. Webflow's API, it's not the browser API.
Right.
Webflow has a front-end library that it's called just Webflow, capital Webflow,
Okay.
which you can use to interact with it.
Mm.
And the Webflow API provides a method for running your code just after Webflow has finished loading the page. And it's very convenient when you want to interact with some components that Webflow it's dealing with, stuff like that. For this case, we don't need to do it because this is just a simple text block. But we could do, we could go this step further if you wanted to complete.
Okay. So let's start with the
That's
simple.
simple approach.
Yeah, let's do. And it sounds like the more complex approach still needs that kind of other step, still needs the middleware, needs all those steps. But then we would need to
Yeah,
use the Webflow API to like render this information as a next step.
yeah. Well, and also caching the requests
Right. That's another one.
because
Totally.
right now, the way that we're going to implement it in the simple version, it's just going to call every person that comes
Right.
on the site. It's just going to generate a request to ConvertKit,
Mm-hmm.
but probably ConvertKit has a rate limit.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know if it's a lot or not, but ideally, instead of calling ConvertKit every single time,
Yeah.
we would fetch the data, we would store it ourselves, and then just
Query
update
it
it from time to
periodically.
time.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
this,
correct. So in that case, it's more performant.
I think this is the main difference between me and a real developer is I think of all the reasons I can do it of like, let's get it up and running. Let's do this very simply. And you're like, here are things that you're going to hit down the line. And I'm like, we'll worry about those in the future. Right.
Yeah.
But I think those are great call outs. So if we have time, we'll kind of implement all of those. You mentioned a few:
Yeah.
security, caching, and then potentially using the Webflow API. And if folks are loving this, maybe we'll do a second session on the more like, nitty gritty
Yeah.
of this. But I think what people want to see, and what I personally want to see as well, is this: how do we update this automatically? So as we're going through this, great question from Daniel. Couldn't this be solved with Zapier and Make? Not really, right? Because we don't want this to live as a data piece in our CMS, right? We really want to be calling this as a live piece of information. And you might say like, oh, this doesn't really make sense in this instance. But maybe you have like some very sensitive information, right? Like how many ships are out at bay, and you absolutely need to have that live information. That's something that unless you're always refreshing it in the CMS, it won't make sense. So this is saying every time someone lands on this page, we are actually going to go and ask ConvertKit how many subscribers do we have. So Glenn and Ferdy haven't even seen the first session, already excited about the geeky stuff at the end. So let's flow through this. So Alex, you said the first step is to set up a middleware. Now, when we were talking about this, you
Yes.
proposed Pipedream. Talk to me about what Pipedream is and what's different between something like Pipedream and something like Make or
Zapier.
Zapier. Like, what is Pipedream?
Pipedream is the low code version of Zapier, Make, all these different automation tools that you know. Pipedream, it's basically it has the same idea, but at the same time, it allows you to hook into everything that's going in the background.
Got it.
For example, in Zapier, when you want to sync between Airtable and Webflow,
Mm-hmm.
you just set the steps. Like
Right.
from Airtable, I want to pick this and I want to send it to Webflow.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that's going on in the background, you don't know it.
Right.
It just making it build it for you, but not letting you interact
Yeah.
with
It's
it.
for people like me who don't really care about that stuff. But you're saying you do care
Yeah.
about like the things that happen in the background, and that's what Pipedream is for.
Yeah, Pipedream it's gonna show you exactly what's going on, and you can alter the code. You
Got
can
it.
change the code at any time and extend it because there's always something that you cannot do with just clicking
Got
stuff
it.
on the page.
And
There's
so
always some use case.
what we're going to do here, if I'm understanding you correctly, is we want a URL that's similar to this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can go to, we can fetch, we can get, that'll call this, but like secretly, right? And we want to expose the code that's required to do that. And it'll return only total subscribers, right? And what
Correct.
instead of writing all the code to do that, where Pipedream will abstract some pieces of it. So I imagine I'm going to create a new workflow.
Yep. And you want to trigger you want to listen for an HTTP request.
Okay.
So a new HTTP request. Yeah.
Okay.
Just pick the first one, the most popular.
Okay.
And what's this gonna create? It's an endpoint for you. You can just save and continue. And now we have a URL, and this URL it's our own API. It's our own endpoint for doing stuff. So the
So
first thing that we want to
just go
do
to it?
is
Okay.
yep, you
Whoops.
go to it, and it's just gonna tell you, hey, success, we detected a new request, and you will see now the event there in the page, and you can inspect everything.
Got it.
Zapier at this point would already cover some things. It will not. It would not let you see the headers. It would not let you see some parts of the body. Maybe it, here you basically can see everything like a regular API call.
Right.
But don't be scared.
I'm not
You
scared.
can
Did I look
still
scared?
for now. You you don't.
I was a little scared. I'm a little scared of this, but you're saying that this is it's exposing the pieces if we want to. But for me, I'm just saying like, okay, we have an event. I am going to do get calls to this. How do I make it return just this?
So now we want to create a new step. So
Okay.
you can click on continue, or you can just click on the plus. And now we add a new step. And the new step is calling ConvertKit. And exactly as Zapier, also here we have an integration with ConvertKit.
Got it.
And this integration will allow us to authenticate to ConvertKit. And I think that you probably already have that in.
Yeah,
so
I did. I didn't want to
great.
show my secret, so I already have that. But
Yeah,
there was someone
correct.
in the chat who had mentioned like Airtable. This also has connections to Airtable and other, very popular
everything.
applications. And so it abstracts the need to write like the code, but also like the sequencing of the code. This is saying when someone is going to go here, we are going to run this code, right?
Yep.
And should we just go ahead and test this?
Well, now if you check the URL that's going to be called, it's going to be calling the account
Got it.
URL, and this will return the data from your account. So I don't know if you want to make that public. So instead, you can replace that account / for subscribers /
Right.
which is the
okay. So the endpoint here v3/subscribers. So
correct.
And I think this is a distinction, right, between Zapier and Pipedream, whereas Zapier, we would have had a drop-down box to say, what is the trigger? What is the action you want to take? Do you want to get subscribers? Do you want to create a new send? Here you're saying, oh, this is the endpoint. Go ahead and put in the URL of the endpoint you want to hit.
Mm-hmm. There are some integrations that do have all these pre-made actions. ConvertKit specifically does not have.
Got it.
But all actions work the same way. That maybe they give you the pre-made code, but then you can edit it.
Okay.
So in this case, we just have these generic pre-made code, and then we're just going to edit it. So just replace that account for subscribers.
Okay.
And I think that now we can just go ahead and test it.
Okay, got it. So let me see what this returns. Okay. So
there should be a body in there if it went correctly.
Yeah, we have it right here. So we have exports. We have total subscribers. I'm not going to open this subscriber because this is the list of subscribers, right?
Yep.
Now, okay, so just walking through here, every time someone goes to the URL, right, the one we have here, this is going to go ahead and say like, hey, ConvertKit, can you return this call right here? So it's abstracting my secret.
Yep.
And this is what I want. So how do I make, does that make sense to people? Let me know in the chat if this is clear. Like we're trying to follow the Zapier steps. And here it outputted code. We said, okay, we want to run this code, but we just want subscribers as the endpoint, as the thing we want to run. Does that make sense to people? Let me know. I'm happy to spend a little more time here if that's a little abstract. How do I make that when I go to the endpoint that it returns the total number of subscribers?
So now we want to add a new step.
Okay.
And that step will be the step for returning something. So that somewhere around there, it's a little bit blurry for me. There should be a send and
Send. So let me try to.
return HTTP response
Okay.
on the right.
Return. Send any. Oh, return HTTP response.
Correct.
Got it.
And that's just gonna, it's defining whatever it's gonna be returning from the API once we've processed this data. So you can see here that it's returning a status 200. This means that it was okay.
Okay.
You could include headers, you could include anything in the body, but specifically, we just want to include the total subscribers. So you're gonna replace this hello world string for you open and close the curly braces. So you remove this hello world and open curly braces.
Yeah. So let me just, there's some good questions in the chat that I'm going to get to. So can before we do you mind I want to run it with this before we update. And so with this, so we see the workflow is not configured to allow a custom response. So I think that's because in our trigger,
you have to go, to the top. And if I recall correctly, there was
return a custom response from your workflow.
Correct.
Okay, so let's save and continue. All of that should be the same. Let's test this again. Okay, so it's returning hello world. If we deploy this, would that mean that if I go to this,
you will be able to visit?
Oh, cool. Okay,
the URL.
Let's try that again. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna do a little. That's confetti. That's pretty cool. Pretty impressed. Okay, but okay, but people I think rightfully expect the subscriber count. Now I am seeing some great questions in the chat that I will get to in a moment. So let's go back to editing this workflow, which I'm gonna call get subscribers, get sub count. Okay. Now how do I make the body different?
So you would replace you would basically write regular JavaScript and you would replace that string with an object. So you would open curly braces. You can just remove that string. And then what you want to do is pick the data from previous steps. So here in Pipedream, the way that it works, it's if you start writing steps. Oh, sorry. First, you have to declare the name. So you were right.
Sub count.
That's and then you go colon. And you can go to steps. And I'm sorry, but I'm seeing this a little bit delayed.
Oh, really?
Steps, ConvertKit, and then you can see also the.
I should have dot return value is what I'm seeing.
Correct. Yes.
And can I? Okay, subscribers.
Just pick. Correct. So you can just pick whatever you want instead of sending everything.
Got it. So for folks who are new to JavaScript, if we not new, but like noobs, kind of like me, how I understand this is that we're going down the tree here. We're saying, okay, go to steps.convertKit, then dot return value dot total subscribers, and then it's going to output this value right here. So if I go here and we test,
you can just copy the path, and it would be the same. So you can see that it allows you to copy the path to anything.
Got it. So let's test this. Okay, body sub count. So it's giving me the actual emails, not the full count.
Maybe you did not select the.
Oh, right.
You put subscribers. You have to
total subscribers.
Correct.
Got
yes.
It. Okay.
You want the total subscribers. Yeah.
Boom. Is it a stream if there are no mistakes? It is not. That is perfect. Okay, sub count. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you able to see my screen well enough? I can try a few things to get it to work.
Well, I'm seeing it on YouTube. That's why I need to wait like 5 seconds
Oh,
before
really?
answering
Is it
you.
not high quality enough? Let me see. Let me try something.
Nope.
Let me try something. If you come
Oh,
back,
now I can see it.
okay, but you can't see me. That's the issue, right?
Nope.
Okay, well, let's live with this. I'll see you. I'd rather you have a live time reel. We're debugging
Yeah.
on the fly, right? Okay, so now that you can see the screen, that's great. So we're returning sub count here. If I deploy this, you have one unresolved. Oh, let's test. Where is it unresolved? Save and
Save and
continue.
continue
Okay.
again.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All is good. Let's deploy this. And then if I go back to this URL, boom, it
Yeah.
returns a JSON that says sub count 3,517. Woo! Okay, we're
Nice.
done. Have a great day. Oh no, we're nearing there. So I do want to address a few questions. Daniel asks, why are we going through Pipedream? And the answer is because we don't want to expose our API key. And
Yeah,
we
we
want
could be
to,
building our own API, but Pipedream is just easier.
yeah. Yeah, and not only that, but I think we're also saying we don't want the full response. We only want this.
Mhm.
We want to control the referral. There's a lot here that we have to do that is beyond the secret, but it's just adding a layer of security and making it easy to do all of that. Penny asks, why is the number of subscribers different? Is that it is a list. I was going to obfuscate that, but Penny obviously caught me. So at the end, if there's some time, we'll add a little parameter to the API call to see the tags that people are subscribed to. So I'm cheating a little bit, but I can't hide I can't hide from my audience. They know what's up. They know when I'm cheating. Okay, cool. So
Yep.
how do we get this into this? How do I update
So
this?
now, nice. Yep. So now it's where it comes the front end JavaScript code.
Right.
We want to create some JavaScript code that is going to fetch this new endpoint that we've created. It's going to make sure that we get the response.
Mm-hmm.
And once we get that response with the sub count, we're going to take that and use the DOM API to interact with the element and replace the content of the element with this new value.
Got it. Okay, so there's a few things here. First, we need to write some code in the front end in Webflow that fetches, using the word fetch on purpose, fetches
Fetches.
that goes to the endpoint, fetches that subscriber count, interprets it, and then a second kind of bit of code that says, okay, go to text weight bold, whatever is in that container or item, and replace it with the sub count that we just got. So how would you recommend people go about doing that, and what tools we should use?
For the sake of setting up a quick environment, I love using staplets, and I see that you have it already there, ready. So I usually in my own development environment, I usually just work locally with VS Code, with my own plugins, and with my own workflow for building the code. But just for doing a quick project like this, Stackblades is a tool that's super amazing. It's just going to spin up an entire web development environment for you with a code editor, with previews, with a build tool in place. It just everything's ready. So in that case, I think that it's super nice for this stream.
Yeah. I have this whole story around why I never became a developer around building environments. That if we have time, I'll talk about at the end. So for folks who are kind of like, okay, what is this? This is essentially somewhere where I can create a page, right, that has the HTML, the JavaScript, the CSS. And for me, and I'm really excited about this tool because it allows me to just like mess around, right? And then I can copy paste this into Webflow where there's no code checking. Webflow doesn't check your code, but this does. So the step one is get information from get fetch subscriber count. So how do we do that?
What we should do first, well, let's create a function.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of being able to reuse that in case that you have multiple elements on the page. So let's say, yeah, get subscriber, whatever. And with this function inside, we want to call the browser API that's the fetch API.
Okay. I have never
So
done
you
this
will
without
write,
Googling, so I'm going to trust you to
okay,
walk me through how to fetch from a vanilla JavaScript. Yeah.
yeah. So let's, yeah. So just fetch, and
Yeah.
then we put there the endpoint.
So fetch like this, and between it's a string.
Yep, it's a string.
Cool.
And can we go with a sync await instead of a
Yes, in
native
the function.
fetch? Yeah. So in the function, just write a sync in
Right,
the
and
front,
then await
and
the
then
fetch.
await the fetch, and you will store the result in a variable. So you will say something like const response equals to await fetch.
Const
For
response
example.
equal await fetch. Okay.
Yep. And after that, we want to convert that data into JSON because
Right.
initially it's just a blob.
Yeah.
So
Do you
you would
prefer
take
doing that as
the
a separate
response.
step, or do we want to do like a dot then
No, I prefer to do it in a separate step.
step? So, okay. So can we
So you
console
just,
log this one? Yeah. Like something like this. I'm curious to see
yeah,
what the
you could.
response is. How about that?
You could.
And then we want to get subscriber. Like that. Does that make
Correct.
sense? I see you going through multiple
Yep.
screens, so hopefully you can see this.
No. Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Okay. Refresh. I'm getting a CORS error.
Course. Okay. Maybe we can. Interesting.
We just do, let's see if, oops. Like something like this. So let's refresh that. Weird.
Could you send me the endpoint in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also,
Shouldn't we have like the type, like the get, whether we're doing like what verb
by default, it
should be get?
defaults to get.
Let
Yeah,
me see
so
this.
it always defaults to get.
Yeah, this should work.
And
see, this is why I need like one of those
yeah,
like Jeopardy timers,
actually,
you know?
So it seems that I can call the API from your side, but when calling it in StackBlitz, we're getting this error.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
no, this is not a CORS error. No, it's just the response. Let's convert that to JSON. Sorry.
okay. Oh, okay,
'cause
okay.
I
Sorry.
saw
So this
that
is
first CORS.
it's not an
Yeah, it's just
error.
fine.
It's just saying that it's a cross
No.
origin request, but the status is
Yeah,
200.
correct.
So we got
Correct.
scared, but this is the right response. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to console log.json, right? So we can turn this into JSON.
Yep.
And that should.
Well, you have to wait it.
Oh,
You
right,
have
right.
to wait it because it's async.
Something like that. Okay, here we go.
I'm with you. I'm just tweaking my fan.
Yeah, no worries. So just okay, we're taking a step back here. For folks who are not aware of what CORS is like the classic error that you get calling an API from one browser to another and is like pesky to fix. So we both got scared. But essentially now it works, right? So we're saying when this function runs, it's going to go to this endpoint and then it returns sub count is equal to 3518.
Correct.
So now we have that data in the browser, right? So anyone running this piece of code will be like, oh, I know how many subscribers to we have. Now, how do I does that make sense, everyone? Let me know in the chat if this makes sense. So if you're ever familiar with like Airtable scripting, this is absolutely no different, right? There's a question from Wiley around Whaley, I think. Is StackBlitz similar to Code Sandbox? Are you familiar with Code Sandbox?
It's similar, but it's different. Code Sandbox, everything is on the cloud. So every single keystroke that you make, you're communicating with the cloud. That it's and when you try to run any logic that you're seeing, like this split screen that you have with the preview, all of that it's running in the cloud. But StackBlitz, instead of it's running everything in your browser.
Got it.
So it's you have the same experience like local development with the same speed, with the same benefits of developing local, but everything is still being synced in the cloud. So
Got
it's just like code sandbox, but in a better way. It just improved.
Got it. Awesome. So let us know if that answered your question. So okay, so there's a great question from Dylan that I do want to get to. Actually, let's finish this and then I'll answer your question, Dylan, which is a really good one. And absolutely, I'm gonna put a little mental note to go here. Okay, so now we have right here in the console, I see sub count equal 3581. I can even zoom in a little bit here, right?
Yep.
How do I now update? This is my sub count, right? So index.html, I have a div ID sub count is equal to this is my sub count. How do I replace this right here with this sub count value?
So first, what you want to do is store that response in a variable so we can use it.
Yeah.
So instead of saying console log await response, so let's just say const data or sub count. Yeah, it could be that await response JSON. That way we have that stored in a variable.
Cool.
Yep. And actually, that for accessing the sub count, you will have to write sub count dot sub count.
Oh, that's weird.
You're getting an
yeah.
object.
Let's call this convert kit. Does that make sense?
That's cool.
Convert. Yeah, I'm terrible at naming variables, but this makes sense.
That's fine. It's fine. Yes. So now, if you wanted to access it, you would just have to write convertkit dot subcount because it's the object that it's coming from the API. So first, what we want to do is query the element using the DOM API, the document. So you would say something like const element equals to document dot query selector.
All right, let me see. Let me brush up. So document dot get element by ID, right?
Yeah, but yeah, the document it's
small d,
not capital.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm like dusting off my JavaScript. So essentially, we're saying go to the structure of the page, find an element. And then I could put the name of the element. Is that right? Am I doing the sub count?
The ID of the element in this case, because there is a method exposed by the browser API that it's this get element by ID,
right?
Which is going to return the reference to the element object on the page.
Right. And then, so this is returning, this is my sub count. So what I want to do is replace... How do I replace that all of that div, the ID, with the convertkit.subcount?
There's a method that it's called text content. There are multiple methods, but I recommend that you use text content.
Text content.
Yeah, and in that case, if you're gonna just chain it, you don't need to save it in a variable.
Oh, I can just go document. Yeah.
Usually when I'm coding, I'm just every single thing that I'm querying, I'm storing it in a variable, so it's more readable.
Right.
Because you're interacting with an element and whatever. But just for this small snippet, it's fine.
And so here, am I saying
text content? Nope, that's a getter. So you would just a setter. So you would just say equals to the convertkit dot count. Subscriber count, the sub count.
Let's check what it is. Sub count. So there's a really important. I've see. Okay, it updates, but I messed things up here a little bit. So let's call this right. So subscriber div. Actually, let's do even better. Let's call this text weight bold. Right? Would that make sense? Like I need to call this. That's what we're.
I wouldn't use the CSS class because maybe you have other elements that are using that CSS class.
Oh, okay, got it. So
I recommend that you put an ID or even better an attribute, but an ID is fine.
Okay, so we'll do that when we get to. So so subscriber div or subscriber ID, div ID. I'm terrible at this. I'm sorry. And I'm essentially I'm putting it here. So I don't want to mix up the sub count.
Yep.
So now I'm saying the ID, the div with the ID called subscriber, which I'm calling subscriber div ID because I love messing people up. I'm changing to sub count. So now if
Yes.
you refresh the page, you see that it quickly updates to 350, and I can even remove here. And then you see that it pops up. So when the page loads, it's like, hey, ConvertKit, how much subscriber? And we could see here that we're doing these live calls. Every time we're refreshing the page, we're doing a new call to ConvertKit, which ConvertKit might not like eventually. We'll get that to the end. And then we're updating this to 3518. I think this is confetti as well. I think this is like a good moment with
Yeah.
our second step.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so Robert, let me know if that answers your question. So you're mixed up between the response and the ID that we both called sub count, but I changed one. So Alex, bring us home here. We have about 10 minutes. How do we take this code and update in Webflow to be able to change this to this?
So yeah. So first, let's start with editing the Webflow project to make sure that the ID, the subscriber div ID, is in place. So you would select the element, you would go to the element settings, and in the ID, you would
Might
not
just
in the class, but in the ID.
in the ID. So where's ID? So it's right here. Settings.
There. Yep. You would
Div custom div attributes. Is that it?
no at the top. You see that field that's called ID?
Oh, ID. Oh,
Just
okay, okay, got
the
it.
first field.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm
Yeah.
calling this I'm calling this
Subscriber div ID. I think it was.
That's awful. What would you call this as a person who does this for a living? What would you call subscriber count?
For example,
Is that better? What's
subscriber
better?
count, that would be, yeah, that one, it's definitely better.
Okay, thank you. It's okay, you could call me out. Okay. So let me actually update it here just so boom.
Yes,
So we know it
we update
works.
the code.
Boom. We know it works. So what am I copy pasting and where?
Yeah. So you have to copy the get subscriber function, and well, both the declaration and the invocation of the function. Yep.
Okay.
And we will go to Webflow, and in the body of the page, we will create a script tag, because that you were coding in JavaScript, but we're going to put it in HTML. So you have to open and close a script tag.
Okay, so we're just adding a.
You can. It's better if you put it at the body at the end of the body of the page.
So in the page settings, right? So you're saying go to the page settings and the custom code right
Correct.
here.
Yes.
Got it. So I'm going to copy paste that, and you're
At the
saying
body. Yes.
we need to include this in a script.
But open a script open, and then you close that script.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So is there do I just save, publish, and we're done? Is that the best way to test it?
Save, publish, and that's it.
Okay. How confident are we from a 0 to 10?
Usually, I am pretty confident.
Okay.
9.5.
9.5. Chat. I'll give you a few seconds. How confident are we that this is going to work? Yeah. So Joe has a good point. Think about it before is a no code mentality, and think about it later. Think about it later is no code. Man, people trust. People, Alex, have very high trust in your code, even if it's being delivered through me, which is 100. Okay. Okay, let's publish this.
Don't think about that. I always break things.
Yeah.
Breaking things, it's part of coding. You
Absolutely.
just break something, and then you try to figure out why that broke. It's just the process of building stuff.
All right. So here, boom.
Let's see.
Confetti, bam.
Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. That's actually really cool. So, okay, there's so much to do here, right? We have like 10 minutes that we can spend improving this, which is really exciting. Whatever. I feel like even if it didn't work, Alex,
yeah, go ahead. Well, I mean, I think that we can list everything that could be done to
Right.
improve it. Because right now, it's like just quick snippet, patch there, and it's working. But there are some things that could be improved.
Yeah.
The first one, we're not handling errors.
Yes.
Imagine that somehow the API it's not accessible for any reason. The current JavaScript code it's not handling those errors.
Hmm.
I think that's fine. We can keep it like that for now. I don't think it's going to break soon.
Yeah.
But we can do it if we have time. Another thing is that we can restrict the API calls just to the Webflow page, your
Right.
page, to avoid anybody else calling it.
Alex, where would you
Um,
recommend doing each one of these things? I think a lot of people would love to implement those. So as we're going through the risks, so for the first one, let's say I wanted to handle an error. Where would I do that? Would I do that in Pipedream? Where is the
in
best place to do
Webflow,
that?
in JavaScript.
In
So you would go in JavaScript, yes. But right now we don't have anything to do if
right,
there's an error actually.
right.
So
We
in
just
this
say
case,
zero.
it does not, for example, but it could be the element 0 out of the box.
Right,
And if it fails, it's just not going to do anything. It will say 0.
right.
So that's not a big concern. If it was like a big application with multiple things going on,
Hmm.
you would definitely have to put something as a fallback
Got it.
in case that something broke. But for now, I think it's fine.
And for the restriction.
Another thing that we could do, actually, one thing that we can do also in Webflow
Hmm.
is we're currently loading the entire page.
Yes,
And then when we get at the end of the body, so the entire page has been loaded, then we are fetching
yes,
the API and rendering it.
right.
But a performance improvement that we could do is we could, when the page starts loading, we could start already fetching the data. And
Mm.
while the page is loading, we are already fetching the data. So we're kind of doing this both things at the same time. We're loading the page at the same time that we're fetching the data from the API. So just like a speed improvement.
And how would
So
we
it
do
would
that?
look. We need to tweak the JavaScript code. How confident are you that we can do it in 10 minutes?
I don't know. You tell me. So maybe let's not do it. Let's say someone was
Yeah.
watching this back and was like, "Oh, how would I do that?" Can you just talk through how someone would do that at a high level?
Yes. So you would run the code asynchronously, and I
Hmm.
think that you're doing it already.
Right.
So that's fine. And actually, it's pretty easy. Just stay with me.
Sure.
Just after the convertkit line, after line 15,
Yeah.
just put a new line and say document.add event listener, document.add event listener. That one, open braces, and then you put a string, and you write DOM content loaded, starting with capital D. And if we're lucky, you will get auto completion. No, okay. So DOM, capital letter.
Oh, all okay. Got it. Okay. Got it. Like that.
DOM content loaded, like that. And then you would put a comma right after the string. No, right
Yeah.
after
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that. And then you would create a function. So
Okay.
you would say function and open braces, like that. And after that, you're missing a closing a bracket.
No, it's right here. It's right here.
No, after the bracket, you need to close
Oh, I see. I
the
see. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Got it.
like
Got it.
that. Yeah. And after the function name, you also need to put a open and close curly.
Yeah. So it's not
Yeah,
retrieving
like that.
anything. Yeah. Got it.
And you put the code of the subscriber count in there.
Yeah.
Correct. And now we're gonna pick everything from here. You can. I think that if you control save, it's gonna format everything for you.
Yeah.
It's gonna prettify this for you. Nice. And now we're gonna take again the code. We're gonna put it in Webflow, but instead of putting it in the body, we're gonna put it in the head.
Okay. Got it. So you're saying okay when okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. So I love where we went. This got into like a coding stream real quick. I love it. This is awesome. We should do just a code. We should just do an hour of this. So we're removing the body tag. We're saying this is gonna run. Do we need the script?
Yes, you need it, and you forgot
Yeah,
to
yeah.
copy one line
Oh,
from
did I? Okay. Man, you're good at. Oh, I forgot to call it. I forgot to call it.
calling
Yeah, yeah,
function.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So now what's going to happen? This is a little bit of an improvement because now we're going to fetch the endpoint while the page is still loading. So
Got it.
there's a few milliseconds that we're just gaining from this.
Who's got a good eye? We're gonna see if it makes a. The first, let's see if it works.
It should. Let's hope.
Uh, I think we broke it. I think we broke it. I'm still seeing the.
Could be okay.
I
Could
don't
be no. It's fine. It could be that
because I don't see it here either.
when the DOM content loaded. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You just need. Actually, this is getting a little bit more complex, but let's say that the DOM content loaded event just fires once. So maybe when the API is finished being called,
Mm-hmm.
the DOM content loaded already fired. So in that case, we need to
Oh,
make a check. And I think that, and in that case, it's going to complicate it a little bit more. So we have two options. We can just return back to where we were and just leave that idea to people to try it themselves.
some
Or
folks,
we
the function
can.
caller was in the function block. I don't think so because I have it outside, and I don't think there's a
Oh,
missing. Is there a missing? No, there's no missing. I think the code runs
no, it's
fine.
fine.
I actually think
Yeah, it's
Alex
just
is
that
right that
the
it's the timing of the different things are different. Um,
you could do. Let's complete it. Come on, 2 minutes after compare kit line.
yeah.
Just open an if statement after the line 13. Sorry.
Oh, here. Okay, okay. We're gonna do a
Yeah.
check whether the event has happened.
If yeah, and you can say open, and you can put document dot ready. I think that it is. If document dot ready
Ready. I have ready
ready
state.
state. Okay, give me a second. And ready
Oh, some
state
people are saying I
equals.
might
So,
have missed something in Webflow. One second. Let's just make sure. Ta-ta-ta.
mm,
Oh,
you
right
see,
here.
not everything works at the same.
Oh, I see. One second. I did have an extra curly bracket in Webflow. Let's see if that works.
Oh yeah, Joel was right. No, actually, yeah, no. That was right. You did not have to remove that.
Oh, that was right.
Go back because actually you broke it.
I broke it. I broke it.
That was right, but you have to put the function call outside.
Oh, so here there's a curly bracket
So
like that.
missing.
Go back.
I think that should fix it.
Okay, let's give it a try. You know, come for the knowledge,
Now
stay
it should fix
for
it.
the coding. Thanks, Joe.
But still,
You're still not confident? You're still not confident?
could still fail depending on the how fast the API
Yeah.
call returns the response.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's still failing.
Still failing.
So
Yeah.
we need to put that check.
Okay. If document.ready
But that's
state.
fine. So equals, put a triple equals.
Okay.
So let's say triple equals and open a string and write complete. Yeah. And in that case, inside for now, just copy and paste the document get element by ID.
Just
Not
the get
not everything.
this one right here.
Yeah. Just the all of that. In in the entire line.
Sorry, what did I miss? Equal. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
All of that.
Let me format
Just
this.
put it inside, and also put it inside the. So you didn't have to remove it from the previous page.
Oh, okay. Keep
in
its
the
copy.
document
Okay.
loader.
So
Yeah, you could just keep it there, and put it also there. We could improve this code, but it's just gonna.
Yeah.
And after the if, put an else statement, and wrap the following line inside the else. So all of that. You missed the line.
all of this. Wow, my code is super ugly. I'm really sorry if there are any developers here.
Don't worry.
We're like super
What?
judgy.
Yeah. Now it's better. And if you control save, I think it's just gonna prettify all
Nice.
that for us.
Oh, it does pretty fine. Okay, this works. Okay, let's
Okay.
pull it back in. That's nice. So we're essentially saying
Okay.
if it's ready, just change it. If
Put
not,
it. Yeah.
wait until it loads.
Correct.
Fantastic. Woo.
And we
Okay.
could improve that by not repeating the code of setting the subscriber count, but we just have 2 minutes of stream, so I think we can keep it like that. Yeah.
Okay, let me do the script. As I'm finishing this up, is there anything else that just quickly that people should be and I do want to answer that question from before. So you mentioned refer, that would happen in Pipedream, error codes, or handling errors. What else should people think about when implementing something like this?
Caching the data. Yeah. Because right now, every single time that we're visiting the page, we're calling the ConvertKit API again and again and again.
Right, right.
So instead of doing that, we want to, let's say, for example, we want to keep the data every 30 minutes. So we would have a cache on the server, and you can do it in Pipedream, by the way. There's something called stores that you can just pick some data and put it in a store. But on any other environment, it's also, you can do it. You just pick the data, you store it, and now on every request, it's just going to check, okay, does this request need new data because more than 30 minutes has already passed?
Yeah.
Or can I just pick the cache data and return that?
Right. Okay,
So
so
that would be another improvement.
we have about, we're done on the hour, so I feel like there's a second session that should happen here with all of those things. So if you're interested in that session, just drop a yes in the chat. And Joe's here, Alex is here. We're gonna schedule it quickly if there's enough interest. While you're writing that interest, there's a question from Dylan from a while ago, which was, why don't you call the Webflow API from Pipedream? And I think this is an important distinction. Okay, so folks are like, there's a bunch of yeses in the chat. So Alex, people are keen on part 2 of this around error handling and all that. So we'll definitely get that scheduled. So Alex, let's sign off with this. Why aren't we calling the Webflow API from Pipedream?
That's actually something that we could do if instead of getting the live data when we load the page, you wanted to store that data in the Webflow CMS.
Right.
So imagine that you have a collection that's called subscribers, and somehow you have, subscribers stored from a different tag, something like that.
Yeah.
You could synchronize the ConvertKit with the Webflow data.
Yeah.
But you would have to, or set some cron job to do it periodically. You would have to listen for some events, which is doable.
Yeah, I
think. No, just go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the issue with this is that in this peculiar case, it does make sense to have a CMS that has subscribers. But when you're thinking of a more mental model of like, I have 8 data sources I'm pulling from, right? Or I need this, data to be live, and I don't want to be like creating 12 different webhooks pulling in. So I think in this instance, we're thinking of like, okay, caching might be okay, but I don't want to have CMS items for each piece of live information, right? Because then I would have like issues. Maybe I want, other things on my page. So I actually think this approach is like more global, and that's why I preferred it. But I do agree with you, like caching becomes important for things that don't need to be live, because ConvertKit is eventually going to be like, yo, stop spamming our API, right? But this, I think, is a more global approach, especially as you're thinking of like building web applications on Webflow. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, well, we got into the weeds there at the end. So Alex, huge thanks for you to come. It seems like we absolutely okay, there's another question quickly. So folks are saying, why do we copy paste the code from StackBlitz to Webflow?
Ideally, we would just have an environment that every single time that you save, it's already served in Webflow.
Right.
That's also something that we can do.
Okay.
And actually, if we used the URL that you can see when opening StackBlitz, there's a URL. We could use that. It just, for this small snippet, it's better to just inline it in Webflow instead of having to call a script, an external script,
Right.
every single time that you load the page.
So
So that
essentially,
it's simpler, but it can be done. It can be
yeah.
done.
So
Yes.
we could host this as something somewhere, and we're calling this script, but
Yeah.
it is easier to copy paste. Okay, enough questions. We're gonna schedule round two. Joe, we couldn't
Yeah.
find a single person who was against the idea of a part two of live data in Webflow. So this is now a series. Alex, welcome to you're now part of a series that we have to run around fetching live data.
Nice.
So with that, huge thanks to you, Alex. Before we do that next session, where can people find you? Where should people reach out if they have questions and things like that?
You can find me on Twitter. So I think my handle is Alex Iglesias _me in Twitter, and I'm everywhere related to FinSuite. So if you go to the FinSuite community channel, I'll be there. If you go to any no code Webflow Slack channel, I'll probably be there too. In the Webflow, in the Facebook Webflow group, you can also find me there. Just look for Alex Iglesias in whatever Webflow related platform you're looking,
Yeah.
and you'll probably find me.
Or just start writing code in Java in Webflow, and Alex's face will be like, "You forgot a bracket. You missed something here, right?" So that's the future. You're gonna be the paperclip of Webflow, right? It's gonna be your face being like, "That's nice code. Great
Nice.
job." Um, okay, so huge thanks to everyone who joined. We got Penny, Xavier, Glenn, Charlie, Dylan, Pierre, Josh, Josia. Thank you so much for coming. Alex, thank you. You'll be back here. People are asking. We will see you soon. Thanks so much for coming. Everyone else, we're going to be back
everyone.
next week with Ben Johnson from Retool about building internal applications. Stay tuned for a new session with Alex about part two around using live data in Webflow. Thanks so much, everyone. And I'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Make sure to do all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, comment. Helps people find this video and build cool stuff. Thanks so much, Alex. Thanks again. And have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.